Hello there and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined today by Ian Doyle. How are we, Ian?
I'm a little bit refreshed after that little sip of tea that I've
Good
had
for you,
in my Big Bird mug that I was given by one of our former colleagues.
Yeah.
How are yourself, Joe?
I'm
we
all
are
right,
in conversation
thank you.
today. As for those who can't see us, it's just me and you.
Just me and you.
Ghosty, being lazy, decided to go up to Hong Kong and do the tour.
Yeah.
The rest of them, we mentioned Kiefer McDonald earlier this week. I know you weren't here, but what did we decide Kiefer was? A scummy man, I think it was, that we decided on him.
But why? Well, that's quite harsh. Why?
Because he was sat in the office and he just went, I can't be bothered joining you for the podcast.
Wow, that is it's a shame. Theo was at the F1 in Belgium.
Spa. Yeah.
Huge F1 fan is Theo, so he's holidaying there. So I hope he enjoys himself, and hope Paul Ghost enjoys himself in Hong Kong. He's been sending regular updates, so you probably look out on our YouTube channel for videos from Paul Ghost. Another one coming, did you say that, Ian? Yeah. He sent another one this afternoon ahead of tomorrow's game against AC Milan.
That comment was back from our diseased producer as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. And lots to come from Paul in Hong Kong and then Japan when he flies out to Japan next week. So, follow him on socials and keep an eye on our YouTube channel for plenty of updates from him.
And the website.
And the website, of course. Lots to talk about today. Lots to talk about Alexander Isak being one of them. But before we do so, a big shout out to our sponsors, Saily, brought to you by NordVPN. Who are Saily? They are a new eSIM service app brought to you by the creators of Nord. They offer you affordable prices, they help you avoid scams, they protect your privacy, they give you 24/7 support, and they save on mobile data while you're abroad. And you can choose from several affordable eSIM data plans in over 200 destinations with the Saily eSIM, and you'll always have connection when needed. So download Saily in the App Store and use our code BLOODRED at checkout to get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. For more information, go to the episode description box, and for further details, click saily.com/bloodred. Podcast is also brought to you by Sensitive Antibacterial Hand Gel for the fast-acting formula. It kills 99.9% of bacteria. That's because Ian Kroll, our producer today, has turned up despite having a sickness bug.
We warned him not to turn up, and so if we're missing from future pods, we can just blame Ian Kroll.
Yeah, and it also shows you how much we value doing this pod and coming to you and answering your questions, which I've got plenty of.
We're literally putting our health on the line, aren't we?
Yeah. Ian's going to say
something.
something.
Ian's got something to say.
Break his
what have you got
silence.
to say? Come on, say something.
I'm going to break my silence and interject. I'd just like to let everyone know that if I didn't come in today, there wouldn't be a Blood Red podcast.
But Ian and I wouldn't get sick, which
yeah. That's the priority. You've got to think short-term pain for long-term gain.
I've done it for the audience.
That's what we do. We do everything for you. So do something for us. Like our podcast, subscribe, give us some stars. Give us 5 today because of what we're going through. Give us some thumbs up.
Press the bell.
And send us some questions. If you want to put them in the chat, pop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that throughout the podcast. If you want to email them to me, feel free, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com. I've got loads today, so I will go through them throughout the podcast. Also, we are releasing a Blood Red standalone product, a print product, every month from September. Well, there's a launch in August, but then it gets properly underway in September. And we will need some of your comments. We plan to have a bit of a letters page, and it would be great if you get involved. So those of you who do like to send me questions, send me your thoughts. Send me some of your thoughts on Liverpool, on the signings, on the results, on the games, everything, anything and everything. Please send them over to me, and they might go in print. So yeah, that would be.
We'll also need some of their copy probably as well.
Yeah, probably. But we will tell you more about that product as and when it really launches. But yeah,
I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell. I might even tell Ian. Right. Well, let's start. I've got loads of questions, and I will go through them. But let's just start with Alexander Isak.
Who?
You were a busy man yesterday. We're writing lots of different stories. But
yes.
I mean, Liverpool have spent 79 million quid on a striker this week. But could they spend even more than that on another one in this transfer window? Because there's been some developments on the Alexander Isak front, hasn't there?
Look, it has been hinted for a while that... Okay, well, we'll start from the beginning. Liverpool are obviously long-term admirers of Isak, not Isaac, as I keep calling him.
I can't help
Isak.
myself.
Yeah, Isak. And they're not the only ones, obviously, because he is one of the most in-demand strikers in Europe, and a little unlike Ekitkie, which is what I'm certainly on pronounced him, by the way. I know we've had some emails in about not being able to pronounce names properly. Which is funny actually, because my first name's Ian, and whenever I go anywhere apart from any English-speaking country, a non-English-speaking country, they just cannot cope with it. No. LAN, iron, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's never Ian. Anyway, Isak. So Liverpool, long-term interest, quite a lot of other clubs, but there's always been that kind of acceptance that Newcastle United were never going to sell. However, it's in recent weeks, as we've seen over the last 2 days, so it's certainly yesterday, is the player himself has made it quite clear to Newcastle that he's assessing his options and is looking around. Now, one of his options is signing a new contract at Newcastle, which was supposed to have been offered to him, or the first talk of it was 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago. Problem up at Newcastle is that they don't have a sporting director at the moment, and I'm right in saying the chief executive is serving his notice because he's leaving due to health reasons. So they're in a slight state of flux, which not dissimilar to Liverpool were a couple of years ago when they, George Schmadtke, and then obviously it was the thing where Jurgen Klopp left, and then they was trying to recruit not only a new sporting director and then a new manager, and the whole behind the scenes structure changed. So it's not too dissimilar to that. So Isak is obviously thinking, well, I don't know what to do next. Mm-hmm. Now, Liverpool, due to the prudence in recent years of the transfer policy, which we spoke about recently with Dave Powell was in, they have the money to sign. Can I just
interject?
Go on.
If you are still wondering how Liverpool can spend this much money, go back and watch that podcast with Dave, myself, Ian and Dave. Really informative on how that all can happen. Sorry.
Yes, sorry, yeah. And there is a link in the description box, I believe. Or there will be. There were comments, yeah. Thank you, Ian. You are getting better. It's clearly at your job as well. Anyway, so Liverpool can afford it. Now, I heard a suggestion a couple of weeks ago that they could be in for both. When it first came out last week about Ekitkie, that it doesn't necessarily mean just because they're getting one of them doesn't mean they might try and get both of them. And that obviously has since panned out to be the case. And they would have told, this is the things that I couldn't get my head around first, but why would you need two strikers playing the same position? The interest that Ekitike, Liverpool view him as not just necessarily a centre forward, but also a second striker, which again is interesting because then you've got to open the option of, does that mean that Wirtz is going to play on the left? You've already got Gakpo there. Is Ekitike going to play on the left as well? Yeah. Which then leaves space for another striker. And we know that Liverpool are looking at different players and different ways how they're going to change the strike force. We've gone through this lots of times on the podcast this summer, even before that, to be honest. So there is room for him. There will be made room for him. And Ekitike must have been told that, oh, by the way, we're probably going to have a look at Isak. Or, they would have known. He wouldn't, or if he'd not been told, he would obviously got an inkling because he wouldn't have agreed to come if he knew that straight away he's not going to be playing his favourite position all the time. So there's that. Ultimately, then, it's down to Newcastle. We know the player would be welcome to. It would welcome the chance to play for Liverpool. We know that Liverpool can afford him. We know that the manager wants him, and he's been a big fan. I mean, which club wouldn't want him? It's all down to Newcastle then. So it's, what is it, July the 25th at the moment? So there's still another almost 5 weeks to go in the transfer window. Probably it's 5 weeks actually. No, just under 5 weeks. So yeah, there is a long way to go. That's a long time for Newcastle to hold out. Yeah. And while they don't need to sell for financial reasons for PSR, certainly not in right now, but possibly in the immediate future they will have to. The problem they've got is if they do offer him, it's obviously from sources up in Newcastle, which we would have read, which we have read, because obviously we don't, we're not in with the Newcastle crowd, but the sources from the people who are up there say that if they do offer him a new contract, it would be around, he wants to think it was £300,000, wasn't it, a week. And then you open up the possibility of a lot of other Newcastle players going, hang on, I want more money. Yeah. And then that's when that might affect their PSR ranking or however that works. And then they might not be able to spend as much and they might need to sell somebody. The intriguing thing on top of all this is that since that news came out about Isak saying that he'd be welcome to, he'd open to other offers and leaving the club, is that Newcastle have been linked with Visser at Brentford, which I think they were already anyway, but then Sesko at Leipzig, and you don't go for these kind of players if you've already got a lot of other forwards, if you're not getting rid of one of them, and also how you're paying for these players. So for all the talk of Newcastle being steadfast and hanging in, and why shouldn't they? I know we'll come on to more of this in a bit, is they've got a contingency plan that they're obviously drawing up just in case they realise that we can't afford to keep a player, no matter how good he is, if he doesn't want to stay. And again, we'll talk in a bit about what's happened in the past, but this has happened to Liverpool. But for them now, the situation is, will Isak join Liverpool? The answer is only Newcastle now.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how strong they're willing to fight. What I thought was interesting yesterday is I think when Liverpool first made their approach, what was that, a week ago, 10 days ago? There was lots of reports in the northeast, Newcastle steadfast, not for sale. That it felt like a little bit of a change yesterday. It didn't. Still some not for sale stuff, but it didn't feel quite as strong. It felt like there was a bit more of an acceptance that this might have to happen.
You've also got, there's a little bit of game playing because Newcastle obviously want to save face with the supporters because, Newcastle have just won the first domestic trophy in 70 years through Isak scoring the goal against Liverpool in the League Cup final. And they've got into the Champions League. So from their point of view, and we know that they've got the backing of the Saudis PIF, and that's been there for a while now. So they're probably thinking, well, what more can we possibly do? We're on this kind of upward trajectory. It says maybe a little bit like you could argue with Coutinho at Liverpool, where he thought, yeah, well, look, we're going on the up and up, but I've been here for 5 years. I know he's only been there for 2, is it? No, 3 years, Isak. I can't afford to wait. I want to go somewhere else. And I wonder whether there's a little bit of that to it. And Liverpool in the end had to, sold him and they reinvested the money very well, as we know. We saw what happened. So that's a little bit of a parallel to that. But yeah, I think for Newcastle, they can't be seen just to give up and just sell him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
It will be a drawn out process if Liverpool end up getting him. It's what I'm impressed with Liverpool this season is just this summer is just the show of ambition. And obviously when they won the title in 2020, COVID maybe delayed their plans to be a bit more ambitious, and they had a very different manager then. But it feels like Slot is quite ruthless, and it feels like they're in a position of strength. They've saved quite a bit of money in recent years and recent transfers. Carl Brooks has asked, and you are of a right age to answer this, Ian. He said, this window excites me as much as Aldridge, Barnes and Beardsley. How does it rate for you? And it has that feel of it. Like,
I think that was different. That was Rush left, didn't he? And they'd already got Aldridge in before the end of the season, and then they went off and got Barnes, and it was actually Beardsley was the most expensive of the whole lot. I think it was a British record signing from Newcastle. Obviously, Newcastle weren't quite as good then as they are now. You could say it's exciting. I mean, you could go to the 2018 one. That wasn't that long ago. That was a big summer, wasn't it? Who did they get in? They got Fabinho, Keita came over. They got Alisson.
This
they got
feels
Shaqiri.
quite similar to that, doesn't it?
And I think, obviously, Liverpool fans for years have looked at teams like Chelsea, Man United. In fact, what was it? About a year ago that I sat on this podcast and somebody took me out of context, and I'm still getting grief to this day.
What did you say?
I'm not going to say it again. They look at clubs like that and go, well, we don't want to be spending money like that. And they're just spending it on anybody. But also there's also that pang of jealousy, like, I wish we could spend that amount of money. Yeah. What would we be able to do with that kind of money? And now we're seeing what they're actually doing. Unlike Chelsea's, which, they won the Club World Friendly Cup, didn't they, recently? Or Club Money Cup, I should say. Yeah. So they could argue that, look, that worked. But Chelsea seems to be very scattergun. Like, let's get as many players as possible and let's see what we can do with them all. Liverpool's is targeted. Like, they've brought in 3 goalkeepers this summer, and they needed them because one of them's gone out on loan. They had 3 goalkeepers played last season. One of them's left and one's gone out on loan. Yeah. So they've needed to get some goalkeepers in. One of them was already coming in. They needed a right back because the right back's left. They needed a left back because that's a position where going, in terms of the future, they're going to have to address sooner rather than later. So they've addressed it now. They needed a forward because for obvious reasons. They also, so the thing on top of that is last season, I mentioned it before, that Gorsey very early on in the season said if there's 1-2 areas where they need to improve, one is attacking midfield and one of them was up front. And whilst Szoboszlai did well, I wouldn't say it's his natural position in that. that's a position where they've gone big and gone, right, this is it. And the thing about all of the signings is that even if 75% of them work out, Liverpool probably have to not sign many players over the next 1 or 2 years, certainly, and at that level of expense. So they're going all in this summer because they can.
Yeah.
And also importantly, because a lot of the players that they're interested in have become available.
Yeah.
And you can't sign players unless they're available, as we're seeing with Isak. We know that everything about this deal can happen, with the exception of, said before, Newcastle. Yeah. Will Newcastle allow it to happen?
And you do wonder if they get further down the road with a Sesko, suddenly things could happen quite quickly. And the other thing that really impresses me, I've said this on loads of podcasts, but I always had this thing, especially growing up in the 90s, where Man United almost kept themselves at the top by going and trying to buy the best players around the Premier League and stopping rivals in their tracks. And Newcastle, they might not be a direct rival in terms of the Premier League right now, but they're trying to build to become one.
Yeah.
So if you take their best player, not only does that set them back in terms of they've got to go and replace them, but it also sends a message, doesn't it? And I like that. I think that once you're in a position of strength, to be able to go and do that to other clubs, you know, as I say, Man United did it so well, and it can take clubs years to recover from that.
Well, without this turning into the Newcastle podcast, I think Liverpool showed in their progress under Klopp is that you have to have a setback. You have to have times where you don't win stuff or you lose players that you'd rather keep, because you learn from that. And I think that's what Newcastle might have to go through with Isak. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's a natural order, isn't it, to these things? And Newcastle would have to be incredibly successful for the next 15 to 20 years to be on a par with Liverpool, Chelsea, United, Arsenal, probably even City as well. They're just on that. They're in that other tier with Everton, to be honest. Everton.
A little glance from our ill producer there.
Villa as well. I'd say they're at the top of that thing with, there are those other clubs, Tottenham as well. Yeah, I mean, Tottenham won the Europa League, didn't they? So.
Let's go to some of the questions. Ben Gary asks, and this ties into a couple of other questions we've got, so I'll follow up. But Ben Gary's been reading your work. He said,
we found him.
I was reading Ian's report on the behind closed doors friendly and was happy to see him write that Nunez looked particularly sharp and scored a hat-trick. With no bids for Nunez so far and a strong start to pre-season for him, albeit against championship opposition, do you think he could stay and compete with Ekitkie next season? I heard Ian say on the last pod that he thought Liverpool would need another striker anyway, so would Slot need to see it? What would Slot need to see from Nunez for it to be him, or is it simply too little, too late? And then others have followed that up with, if they are going to move for Isak, is it a case of sell Nunez, maybe sell Diaz, maybe sell Chiesa before that happens, or do you think that they could sign Isak and then do those deals?
Right, okay.
Lot to unpack.
Okay. First thing, I was on LFC TV the other day where they said, were you the behind closed doors friendly? And I had to point out, it was a behind closed doors friendly, so no, it wasn't. So that would have defeated the object of it being behind closed doors. The reports came from people, obviously club officials and people I know at the club who were there, and they said Nunez looked really good, looked really sharp. And I know he was only on for 45 minutes. And again, we said in the podcast earlier this week that he couldn't do much more than he's doing right now. I think with Nunez, it is an interesting one. I personally, if they don't have to sell him, I wouldn't. I think I still think there's a role for him there. The problem is for him, I don't think the role's going to be enough that he'll want. He's at an age now, certainly with the World Cup coming up, although assuming he doesn't get banned again for 1 million games for Uruguay. I think he's still banned, isn't he? I think he's still got one. I think he might still have one more game left. He needs to be playing. And I think we saw last season the head coach, Slot, he doesn't have complete faith in Nunez being able to do what he wants him to do, despite the fact that Nunez, for the most part, I'd say 90% of the time, he committed himself, threw himself entirely into what the manager wanted. Yeah. And it doesn't play to his strengths. It is interesting, though, that, of course, Liverpool's attack and the way that they attack now has changed, because they've obviously got one new fullback, could have another one. Come playing more regularly, they're going to have a new hub at the head of the midfield. So it will be interesting to see whether that changes the kind of the service lines to the routes to whoever's playing at the number 9. Because we saw that a lot of the goals they scored against Stoke were crosses from out wide, which Nunez got on the end of. None of them were headers; they were just all first-time finishes, which is what he's better at. When he starts thinking about stuff, that's when things tend to go a little bit awry for him. But yeah, I mean, if they don't sell anybody else, I think they might still sell Diaz. I think if they think Ekitike can do something on the left, they think Wirtz can do something on the left, and they've already got Gakpo.
Yeah.
I think the profile of the person who's playing out wide on the left will change because the fullback's changed.
Yeah.
It'll certainly be changing in Kirkes because he's going to be the choice going forward. And the same on the right to a degree. We know Salah's going to play, but Frimpong could play on the right wing, and Salah could come inside a little bit. Then where's he going to play? So there's a lot of tactical options. Slot said it's funny, isn't it? Slot at the start of the season said, I'm going to simplify everybody's role by saying 2 players for each position. And for example, he said to Szoboszlai, you're the number 10 and you're in competition with Harvey Elliott.
Yeah.
Whereas towards the end of the season, he was talking about signings, and he just offered it himself, and he said, I'm looking for players who can be versatile.
Yeah.
And you look at the ones they've got in, Frimpong certainly is, Bert certainly is, Ekitike certainly is. Obviously the goalkeepers aren't and the left back's not, but that's the majority of them. That's certainly ones they spent big money on. A versatile can play in a number of positions, so obviously he wants a bit of tactical flexibility. So I think Diaz, if the right offer comes, will go, even if Isak doesn't come. But then you are left in a situation where I think they would be one striker short, but then that's why you then don't sell Nunez.
Yeah. Interesting. Gut still feels like Nunez will end up going.
Yeah, I mean, again, I say you're not surprised if Nunez and Diaz go, but if that happens, they will need to sign one big, frontline, not necessarily elite if it's not Isak, but somebody who can walk straight into that team and play a game.
Be interesting if Nunez goes, because I can fully see him going. Let's say he went to Napoli or whoever.
I don't think he's going to go to Napoli because I think they've signed. Yeah.
Sorry, but just an example. I could see him going somewhere and scoring 25 goals, and everyone going, "Oh, look, what's happened there?" But
sometimes that happens. It just happens.
Yeah. Okay, a couple of other good questions. Oh, but before we do, we found the other one. HSN says Doyle.
I hate that.
Doyle, you've been classed this summer window, always keeping up with your articles. Very good read.
Okay, now I'm suddenly going around to him. You can come what you like if you're going to say that.
Right, we have a couple of similar questions.
I didn't realise my dad was on this. You must have the screen size, like 120 point, just to be able to see it.
Right, that's your dad and Jamie. Have you got any other relatives that want to say something nice?
No, I don't like any of them.
Right, so a couple of other questions. This is from Arthur. He says, "Hi Joe, we're all incredibly excited."
Are they Arthur? Yeah.
Not what do you mean?
Okay, go on.
My kid Arthur. Yeah. No, well he's 4. He can't type. I'll do much of anything else.
Wow, that's very critical. He's 4.
He's very able. We're all incredibly excited about new players joining the team. Very able.
I thought you said evil.
Oh, that's good. Evil too. You haven't met him. Let's get to Arthur's email. He said, we're all incredibly excited about the new players coming into the team. It's always great to see fresh talent. However, I must admit, I'm a bit concerned that we might be making too many changes to the squad this season. The last 2 titles were won with an unchanged team. This year, we're looking at 4 or 5 changes to the starting lineup, which feels like a significant shift. My worry is that too many changes could lead to a necessary adaptation period, potentially affecting our immediate performances. Do you share those concerns? And that is also followed up by a question here from Phil Smith saying, how does Slot keep everyone happy? I know there's lots of minutes in games available. The danger when you're buying top players, they all want to play all at the same time. What was the role Ekitike was sold on? So,
we've answered the Ekitike one already. Yeah. In terms of the minute, don't forget, there'll be about 4 or 5 of the players in the squad will go, I reckon. We haven't even mentioned the likes of Harvey Elliott and Tyler Morton and people like that. I'm probably one of the left backs as well.
And they could have a very busy deadline day of outgoings.
Yeah, I think we will see a lot of people go because Slot doesn't want a massive squad. Mm-hmm. By absolute definition, he wants 25, 26, and you're included in that probably Trey and Yoni and Rio and Gamoa. So 23, 24 senior professionals. We know injuries. We know there'll be. I'm expecting a lot more rotation because I think he'll have a lot more faith in the players that he's brought in.
Do you know what I think the big one is this year? I think the Champions League. I think last year they approached it. I think he rotated at PSV, didn't he? But otherwise,
they weren't sure. Yeah.
And I think this year they'll probably go. You know what? First 6 games.
I do think that the point is right about the worry about adaptation because if it doesn't work straight away, there's always that thing where the way the Premier League's maybe not in terms of the actual other teams last season, that if you don't hit the ground running, well, actually, no, Arsenal didn't have to hit the ground running. They were never able to catch up. Man City didn't. They were never able to catch up. So you need to make a solid start. Liverpool don't have the easiest fixtures. I think that statistically that's the case. Not just saying that for effect, but it's either going to be a brilliant time to play Liverpool or terrible, because they could just click straight away with everybody being fit. And that's one of the most important things about getting most of the players in reasonably early.
Yeah.
I mean, the season doesn't start for another 3 or 4 weeks. So, yeah, that is a concern. But then that is always a concern anyway, whenever you play, because you look at Liverpool in 22-23 where they only brought in a couple of players, and then immediately you just went, the players who've been there a long time, suddenly they can't run anymore in midfield and stuff like that. I'm not suggesting that's going to happen right now, but it can happen to a team that just stays together. And a lot of people just thought that Liverpool didn't make enough changes last season, but they did. They had a massive change. Got a new manager in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And coaches. So the whole outlook to the squad, the players might have been different, but everything that they were doing, a lot of it was different.
And they actually had a whole new administration, didn't they?
Exactly, yeah. So there was change last season. It just wasn't in terms of reflected the people who actually walked out onto the pitch.
Yeah. I'm following that up. Paul Chapman, friend of the podcast, he asks, do you think the kind of versatility that we've been talking about could be used elsewhere? So could Szoboszlai, for example, be used as a backup striker? Could Elliott stay and be given more of an opportunity on the left when Gakpo needs a rest? Needs a rest.
Gets rest.
I think there'll be rotation to an extent, but I can't see Elliott on the left, for example, because he cuts in.
The problem with Elliott is that you don't know where his best position is, and we do know what it is. It's number 10, but he's never going to play him there. So it's harsh on him, but I think he did an interview this week, so they might have to leave just to bolster World Cup chances. And my thought on that is that while he's done very well for the under-21s, he'd need to be playing every single game and playing well at a decent level club this season coming up to have a chance to get into the World Cup squad.
Yeah. And he does say another question for another day, but we'll ask it now, is about the back line, so looking light. I mean,
they're going to get another sense back on the outside.
They're going to have to, aren't they?
I think that's definite, and I think they know that anyway.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Paul. Okay, we'll move on to another question. And if you are asking questions in the comments, I'm trying to keep an eye on them. There's lots of questions coming in. So keep them coming in, or if I haven't answered it and you asked it at the start, bang it in there again and I'll have a look if I get around to it. Okay. Kenny Matthews asked, there seems to be more transfer leaks appearing than there used to be. Do you think this is something coming from the club or likely selling clubs drumming up interest in a player? It doesn't seem like Liverpool to let there be so much noise. What are your thoughts?
It definitely doesn't come from the club, and there's definitely not been more.
I just think Liverpool have been busier.
Weirdly, I think there's been less because there's been less random names being thrown about because we know quite well who they've been after. Yeah. I mean, without wishing to give too much away on what we do here, but when they've announced the recent signings, there's not been a big hoo-ha about it because everybody knew who was coming anyway. Yeah. Like the Kirkes was the main one, wasn't it? It's like they finally signed him and it's like, yeah, I thought they'd signed him weeks ago. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Verts was a bit different because that did come a little bit out of the blue. Frimpong, that had been called for a little bit, but you don't know, the Kirkes one. It was a little bit like Gravenberg a couple of years ago where everybody knew that he was going to sign towards the end of the summer, and sure enough, it ends up turning up.
Yeah. What the centre-back situation, do you think that will drag on a little bit? Do you think there's a bit of a cat and mouse game being played at Crystal Palace?
I think so. I think obviously they want to sign Gay. And he's out of contract at the end of next season, and I think Palace, let's be honest, they don't really want to. Well, they don't want to sell him, but they also don't want to lose him for nothing. So I think they're just going to wait until they get themselves sorted in terms of replacement. They've obviously been a little bit busy with other stuff at the moment, the club as a whole. So, and again, it's one of these ones where, like Newcastle, they're not really under any pressure to sell, but for their own good, they might have to.
Your dad's asked another question. He says, Ian, do you think that Liverpool will wait for Newcastle to purchase their players before making an official bid?
I don't really think it works like that. I think everybody, even if they're not in absolute direct contact, they all know the way this thing's going. So I think they're just preparing for, and then it's when they then have to sit down and talk about it. That's where things will get interesting.
And Sanjay Mistry asks, any update on Konate? I heard he was offered a new contract. It's been very, very quiet on the Konate front.
Well, he's out in Hong Kong, so Have a word with Mr. PG on that one.
What's your gut feeling on Konate?
He won't be the start next season.
Start of
Next
2026, 27.
Yeah, because we're now in this season. Yeah, he will.
I'd say it feels like that, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Okay, we'll go back to another couple of questions that I received on email. Quite like this one because it's a little bit different from lots that we talked about. Fletcher says, how do you guys see the situation playing out with Alisson and Mamardashvili? Who will start in the league? He was bought for good money and clearly rates himself as a top goalkeeper, and I can't see him being comfortable riding the bench, he says. I don't know
riding the bench? What they're doing there?
Yeah, but yeah, curious to hear your guys' opinion on it. Thank you, Kenny.
I'll let you answer that one.
Sorry, that wasn't Kenny, that was Fletcher. Apologies, Fletcher.
I'll let you answer that one.
I think Alisson starts right from the beginning. I think Mamardashvili will get cup games, the League Cup, will get selected Champions League games. In the same way that Keller has, Liverpool have played. Keller has played a lot in the last few seasons, and I think Mamardashvili will play a lot. And Alisson does pick up injuries now, doesn't he? But when Alisson starts, when Alisson's fit, he's the undisputed number one.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you, Fletcher. And then I've got a question now from Kenny. I'm going to read it in full because it's quite a sensitive question, but I understand it, and I think it's worth answering or worth trying to answer, even if we don't have the answer to it. So Kenny emailed me, said, thank you so much for considering my question for the pod. I've been a Liverpool supporter for nearly 30 years, and my wife and I have had the incredible experience of visiting Anfield. I also serve on the board of the official Liverpool Supporters Club of Kentucky here in the United States. I tune in via Apple Podcasts and genuinely look forward to each episode. The insights and commentary are top-notch. Keep up the fantastic work. Thank you, Kenny. My question isn't the easiest to ask, but I think it's worth exploring. Given the significant financial outlay this transfer window, we know, thanks to Dave Powell, that Liverpool have navigated PSR more strategically than perhaps any other club in England. That said, has the club's aggressive approach in the market been aided in any way by the life insurance policy on Diogo Jota? Of course, Jota's impact on and off the pitch is irreplaceable. That said, in the US, it's common for businesses to insure key individuals' assets. Is there a similar practice in England? And if so, could such a policy provide financial flexibility beyond the original budget?
He'll be insured because they all are.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of it won't be insured to the level of what they could have got if they'd sold him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it would have any impact on this transfer window, on the next one, and then the reality is whether it's for everybody. This is going to sound massively crass, but I'm going to say it anyway. Jota's was worth far more him being here.
Yeah, of course, to live.
And I don't know, and I mean from this kind of point of view. So I don't necessarily think that's going to make that hasn't helped Liverpool. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I think much of Liverpool's summer planning, I don't think this will have impacted financially, but it will have impacted naturally. They need more players, don't they?
Well, that's the thing.
So
yeah,
that's it. Right. Any more questions? Well, let's talk. Few people are talking about a buy-in bid for Diaz. You'd expect another one, wouldn't you? And would you expect Liverpool to eventually find a compromise with Bayern on that situation?
I think so, yes. But only there'll be a certain figure that Liverpool will go, well, you know what? We quite like figure A, but if we get figure B, then we'd have to have a bit of a think about it. And then that would depend on what else they're planning on doing in the transfer window.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, Liverpool have a game tomorrow.
Yeah, you see that.
So what do you expect from that? I mean, obviously...
But it's a bit warm.
We haven't seen Florian Wirtz yet. I know he played in the behind closed doors game, but I think... Do you think he will feature? Who else do you think will feature? It'll probably come too soon for Ekitike, won't it?
He might get some minutes off the bench, I suppose. It depends. Has he actually played anything for Frankfurt? I don't think he has so far.
I'm not sure. He missed the under-21s, didn't he?
Yeah,
He didn't
so I don't think he's played for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe he does need some minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm just guessing. But I don't think we'll see everybody subbed at half time. I think we're going to start seeing some players get 60 minutes and some get 30. And then maybe swap it around for the next game. I think by the end of this tour, they've only got the 2 games against Bilbao. Then they're into the Community Shield, which is essentially glorified friendly. Yeah. Although I'm sure if Chelsea won it, they'd have a little badge put on, their shirt saying that they've won it so many times. I think we'll start at the end of this tour. We'll have a better idea of what he'll have. Alan Slot will have a better idea of what he thinks is going to be that starting team for Bournemouth.
You've been on many of these tours.
I have.
What are they like as an experience?
Right. Okay. If you go into Hong Kong,
Yeah.
because I've done that on tour twice and then went back on holiday, it's very, very humid and hot and stifling and awkward.
Beyond the weather.
Well, no. Well, you say beyond the weather.
What's the experience like?
No, well, saying beyond the weather, because when all the tours are always in summer. I've been to Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, with Liverpool in the Far East several times to some of those places. I've been to America as well with Liverpool. I've been to America quite a few times with Everton as well. It's always ridiculously hot, which does have an impact on the reason they go out there is obviously commercial, but also it kind of helps them prepare them, because no matter what the weather's like there, it's not going to be nowhere near as bad when they come back.
Yeah.
And a lot of there's no kind of advantage in that sense, because most Premier League clubs go somewhere now. In terms of the actual, depends where you go. In the Far East, for example, the fervour from the fans is ridiculous. It's just insane.
Yeah.
They will go to all the events, like the training thing, at 25,000 people, and people will pay. They'll have paid to watch. I've done, certainly in the past, it's happened where they pay to watch the training session, which is interesting because the players always respond to it, because they normally the train they're normally just like getting on with it, but then you can see them looking at the crowd and pointing out this, that, and the other. So it is about that kind of relationship building, being the presence with the fans. In terms of actually being a journalist covering it, it's hard work. Because for a start, you're out. I know people say, "Oh, you're paid to go out there," and it's like, well, yeah, but you're there to work. It's a long way, and we don't get quite the same compass that the players get, shall we say? And it can be. I know Paul, because he had the same experience that I had when I was in Singapore 2 years ago. Liverpool tend to put legends up, whether it be, I think he's spoken to Lucas. I think he's done an Ian Rush one.
Yeah.
I think I've done Skirtle in the past and other people like that. They get put up very early in the morning, like between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. Then you go off to, this is assuming there's no game on, by the way, then there's normally some kind of events, like a community event, where some players or some staff will be interacting with supporters and they'll be putting something on. Then you'll go to there and you might speak to somebody there. Then you'll head off to somewhere else, and then you might have a chance of maybe speaking to a player or something. That sometimes tends to happen when you get an exclusive, like sit down with the player. You got to get over to the team hotel or wherever they want to do it, and suddenly before you find out it's 7 o'clock in the evening, you've not actually written anything because you've been jetting around everywhere, and you're starving because you've not eaten, and so it is very, very full on, and you don't get rest days or anything like that. I mean, but it's better than having a proper job, let's be honest, right? So I'm not complaining as such, but it is very, very full on. And I can guarantee by the end of every single tour, every journalist who goes out to any of these things comes home and goes, I'm having a few days off now, I'm having a rest. Yeah. But it's an experience, and it's an experience for the players, but you kind of feel, not so much part of it, but you are somebody there that sees the players all the time. So you're seeing things from kind of their point of view, because if all these many, many tens of thousands of people are turning up for a training session, it's a bit odd. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you don't normally get to see that kind of thing, and the players don't either. So that's a little bit shared in that sense.
Yeah, and it speaks to the club's incredible reach, doesn't it? And I think about, we talk about all these signings and the financial power, but Liverpool have opened another club store over there, haven't they, during this trip? I think they're opening one in Japan, and it just speaks to the way the club is so well run, the way the club is such a global powerhouse now, that they're able to go out there, that they're able to have these stores, that they're able to have the fan base. So it's it's fascinating.
It's interesting in the sense that Liverpool, even when they didn't win a lot of stuff throughout the 2000s and early 2010 and the 90s actually, they were still able to keep this fan base because two reasons. One, because it was brought up through families, because obviously in the 70s and 80s, back then I think more when football was becoming a bit more popular, that Liverpool just happened to be a team that was winning stuff. And also they have won big trophies at regular times, like 2005 won the Champions League, 2001 won the UEFA Cup. what was it? I can't remember. They didn't win anything for ages after that, did they? 2012 League Cup doesn't really count. It doesn't really. I mean, it's a decent trophy, but it's not quite on the same level as those two. And then they brought in big name players like Torres, for example, and then they brought in Klopp as a manager. So they've always been able to keep themselves reasonably high profile, even when they've not been as competitive in terms of winning trophies as they are now. So when they have started winning stuff over the past 6 or 7 years, again, they've noticed that the interest has shot up, which is going to be the same for any team that starts winning stuff.
Yep. Well, anything else you'd like to discuss before we sign off?
Is anything else on the tours thing? I don't know. There's a lot of travelling as well, especially when you got like, I think Saturday, Ghosty will do the game against AC Milan, and then he's going to jet across to Japan from Sunday. Again, tough life, but you don't get much kip, basically, is what I'm saying.
Ian, thank you very much. All of our listeners, thank you very much. Thank you for the questions. If you'd like to send me another one, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com. We'll be back on
Monday?
I'm off Monday, so I don't know who'll be doing it Monday.
I'm in on Monday.
Okay,
oh, good. Well, I'm not coming in on Monday.
We will organise. We'll be back next week. But please look out on our YouTube channel, the Blood Red YouTube channel, and on the website, and in the paper and wherever else for Ghosty's updates from Hong Kong and Japan. Like, subscribe, give us some stars. We don't ask for much.
Press the bell.
Press the bell. Do all those nice things. And have a lovely weekend.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.